Proverbs 13, verse 11. Wealth hastily gotten will dwindle, but those who gather little by little will it increase. And then verse 16. The clever do all things The clever do all things intelligently, but the fool displays folly. And from Proverbs 21, verse 20. Precious treasure remains in the house of the wise, but the fool devours it. May the Lord add his blessing to the reading and the understanding and the interpretation of his holy word.
Amen. Thank you. Just a side note here, I want you to remember as you're going through the days ahead, when things get tough or questionable, that I'm praying for you. And I want you to remember to look around. We're praying for you. Find strength and comfort in that. Mom, you hear me too, and everybody there. Remember, we're praying for you. When you don't know what to pray, we're praying for you. Okay? Find strength and comfort in that as well. And all of you who we're praying for. We're continuing our series today on Imagine. And we're imagining different things during Lent, that if we just change some behaviors in our lives. And that's what Lent is really all about, isn't it? Do some introspection, some looking at ourselves and see where we need to improve and how it could make us holier and make us a blessing to God as well, and to others. So we talked about the first week about imagine if I forgave everybody and let go of those resentments, right? What freedom we can find. And we talked about last week, imagine if I gave up worry, if I stopped worrying, and how hard that can be to do. This week I want to continue and talk about imagine financial peace. And that's an important topic that we avoid in the church, other than talking about just giving and those kind of things. But how do I find peace in our finances, right? That's a difficult area. And if you're like most people, one of the greatest sources of stress in your life is, was, or will be money. And if you're like most people, the stress comes from not having enough at the right time. Doesn't it always seem to work out like that? Studies show that 2/3 of all married couples say that most of their conflicts center around money. And more than 50% of divorces are caused by disagreements and stress over money. Orange County in California is one of the most affluent places. It would likely be the same. But the truth is that we don't really need more money. We just need to manage what we have better. John Wesley, the founder of Methodism, did a lot of teaching on money. And he offered 3 simple practical guidelines to every believer. And John Wesley's first rule about money was to gain all you can. Isn't that something? Earn all you can. Despite its potential for misuse, money in itself is something that's good. It's something that's good. There's no end to the good that money can do if we use it in a godly way. In the hands of God's children, it can be food for the hungry. It can be drink for the thirsty. Clothing for the naked. It may be, we use that money for as a defense for the oppressed, as a means of health for the sick, or maybe something that we use to ease someone of their pain. Money can be used and can can be a good thing. So I want you to imagine how dramatically your life could change if you got your financial priorities under control. Wouldn't that be a blessing? You could experience the peace that you didn't before, and you could make a difference in people's lives that you did not make before. So today I just want to briefly suggest a few ways that you can tweak your financial priorities. And as in everything else that we do, and I truly believe it's the starting point for all that we do, it all begins by making a decision to commit to financial peace, to gaining financial peace. So what the starting point is to pray, right? Pray fervently. Pray fervently. I want to admit, I'll tell you, I admit that my prayers have often been a tad on the selfish side. Okay, in fact, if I'm being completely honest, they probably still are to some extent. Help me, bless me, be with me are still the common themes in my prayers. But the prayer that I want to suggest today, instead of bless me, help me, be with me, I suggest instead is for God to change our hearts and to take away our desire for the things of the world, the things that don't really matter, and we place such a high priority on. Now that's a scary prayer to pray, isn't it? Change my heart, God? That is scary. Because you know why? Because if you pray that prayer, God will answer. God will change your heart. And you will be led to do things that you wouldn't have and redefine your life. It will make you change all your goals. When God changes your heart, it may change the way what you do and how you do it, because your heart is changed of what is really important. So once you pray about financial peace, then it's time to make a decision to settle in for the long haul. Financially, settle in for the long haul. In the past 2 weeks, I've talked about how replacing those habits, as I've said, can be a chore. Forgiving others, right? It takes a repeated effort. Giving up worry takes a repeated effort. And today's topic, financial peace, is no exception. Gaining financial peace is a lifelong process. One of the best ways to settle in for the long haul is to become informed, to learn as much as you possibly can. Proverbs 13:16 says, every prudent person acts out of knowledge. To learn, to understand. Accept the fact now that having financial peace is a lifelong process. So as you look at your financial situation as it is and do an evaluation, ask yourself, in what areas do I need to improve? Do I need to maybe take a class on investments? Maybe I just need to learn some basic household budgeting. Do I need to learn more about giving? Look at the areas in which you need to improve and start improving in those areas. Because you see, settling in for the long haul means that you're not going to give this a half-hearted attempt to do it for a couple of weeks and then go back to your old habits. Because that's self-defeating, isn't it? That's not going to get us anywhere. Half measures avail us nothing. It means that you'll keep trying, keep learning, and keep improving. And if you will do this, financial peace will come to you. I guarantee it. And it will come to you sooner than if you keep doing what you've been doing up till now. That's causing all of your stress. And then I want you to imagine, just imagine what your life would be like if you started paying attention to what you do with your money. I was talking to somebody after the first service, They were talking about how they just run and get a cup of coffee. You go to Starbucks, it's $5 for a cup of coffee 5 days a week, right? I did that same thing. I did a self-evaluation of where my money was going, and it adds up. Where does it go so fast? It seems like I just broke a $50 bill yesterday and I've got nothing to show for it. That's common for most people, right? But you can stop that kind of financial amnesia by simply keeping records of what you buy. That's pretty easy, right? Just slow down and keep a record. It will be so revealing to you. When I started keeping track of my spending, I made an amazing discovery. I was spending $50 a month on soft drinks. It's only $1, but guess what? $1 adds up, doesn't it? And I realized I was spending nearly $600 a year on something that was not making my life any better. So I decided, if I'm going to waste $600 a year, I would rather waste it on something more meaningful than soda. But it wasn't until I started keeping track of where my money was going that I realized I was missing out. Keeping track of your finances. It doesn't take a lot of effort. People make this a lot more difficult than it really is. It's quite simple. You only have to track in general terms how much you're spending, and that will allow you to keep your eye on where your money is going. And it will help you see the problem areas and make the adjustments that are necessary. So keeping good financial records makes it possible for you to manage your money from a position of strength. Isn't that what you want? Don't let your money control you. You take control of your money and you know the blessings of using it wisely. Because there will be fewer surprises along the way, and you will be able to prepare for what lies ahead instead of trying to scramble at the last minute. And then imagine the difference it could make if you started putting a little bit of money away today. Just a little bit of money. A friend of mine told me that he started by going online every day to his bank account and moving some of the change in his savings account. So say if his account was $212.74, he moves $1.74. He is now saving $50 a month, give or take, which is not a lot. That's not a lot, I understand. But it's more than he ever saved before in his life. That's amazing. Solomon said, "The wise person saves for the future, but the foolish spend whatever they get." And he also said, "He who gathers money little by little makes it grow." That's biblical teaching about your money. It's about how to use it, how to be blessed and bless others. John Wesley's second rule for the use of money, his second rule was save all that you can. Gain all you can, save all that you can. He had two reasons for telling Christians to buy only what was necessary. The obvious one was so that they would not waste money. The second was so that they would not increase their desires, right? We want things. I want. And then you hear kids in the store, "Oh, I need that. Oh, I need that." You don't need that, do you? You want it. He wisely pointed out that when people spend money on things they don't really need, they begin to want more things that they do not need. When that's how you're spending your money, it increases your desires to want more of things that you do not need and spend foolishly. Instead of satisfying their desires, they only increase their desires. And that's foolish, isn't it? I encourage you to begin to get in the habit of putting a little bit of money aside each month. Just start there. Even if it seems to be a small amount now, it will grow over time, and you will be amazed. What's more, saving consistently teaches you discipline. And if you develop the discipline in the area of savings, it will help you develop a discipline in the area of spending as well. And then, let's use our imagination around our finances a little more. Imagine what would happen if you made every effort to get out of debt. I used to get really annoyed when I would hear a financial consultant say, in order to get your finances under control, eliminate your debt. Really? I thought to myself, that's easy for you to say. Why don't you just tell me to flap my arms and fly to the moon? Huh? I have a better chance of doing that than getting my debts paid off right now. Getting out of debt. It isn't easy, but it is possible. And that is good news. It's possible. It begins with a commitment to never go any further in debt than you already are. Statistics show, statistics show that Americans owe a total of $1.027 trillion in credit card debt. That's as of March 2018. What people are buying with their credit cards is most often not things with long-term value. You know what they're buying? They're buying groceries and gasoline. And they are taking months to pay it off with interest. This kind of debt leads only to misery. There is nothing wrong with spending your money to live your dreams and to enjoy the blessings. But if you can't afford it without going into debt, you might consider living within your means. It will make a huge difference in your life. Paul said, the apostle, let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another. I like that. Isn't that great? Let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another. Eliminating debt is something that takes most people years to accomplish. That's why the first point that I said in the message today is settle in for the long haul. It takes time. You probably won't be able to get rid of all your debt in a couple of months. It'll probably take a while. But the effort is worth it. It's worth it to have that peace, financial peace. John Wesley's third rule was to give all that you can. And that can be hard when you're trying to make ends meet, can it? Huh? That's why it's important to get it under control so that you can give and enjoy the giving process. As disciples of Jesus, we're called to reflect God's generosity, aren't we? To reflect it, to show the generosity of God that's poured out on us to others. That's what grace is all about. We have a tendency to give only when it's easy to give. When things start to get a little tight, what we give to God is often the first thing that gets cut out. That's a bad habit to get into. And it's a bad habit for a couple of reasons. First of all, it shows a lack of gratitude to God for all that we have received in the past. And secondly, it shows a lack of trust in God's ability to help us through the difficult times. So it's a bad habit. Whether things are easy right now in your financial life or whether they are difficult, make it a habit to give to God first before you spend money on anything else. And I know that is hard to do. It's about trust, and it's how we learn to trust God with our finances. You say, Jesus, I want you to be Lord of my life, except my finances, okay? I'll take care of that, okay? that is not surrender. We surrender our lives in all areas of our lives, and we trust in God to provide, to take care of us. Solomon said, honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops, and then your barns will be filled to overflowing when you honor God with the first fruits, and your vats and your brim will overflow with new wine. That's a promise from God. In the same way that practicing discipline in the area of saving helps you practice discipline in the area of spending, being consistent in your giving will help you become consistent in other areas of your financial life. That's how it works. Plus, it opens up the door for God's blessings on you. People often ask me, well, how much should I give then? The biblical guideline is a tithe of 10%. And that ought to be our goal. Most people, by making only a few minor adjustments, could start giving 10% of their income to God right away. If you currently do not tithe, but you want to take control of your finances, then I encourage you to begin taking small steps in that direction. Only little steps, what you can afford. Just make an effort to, I want to work up to a tithe eventually. And just being able to give something means so much to your spiritual life. You may not be able to give as much money as some others give, but whatever you give to God, guess what? God will honor it and you will be blessed. Paul said about giving, he said, if the willingness is there, the gift is acceptable according to what one has, not according to what they do not have. If the willingness is there, that's about your heart, isn't it, huh? Giving more this month than you gave last month is one way to start working in that direction. Even if it's just $1 more. It's crazy how this works. But it's a promise from God. It is one time in Scripture where God says, test me on this. Test me on this, and you will see. The more generous we are in our giving, the more that we bless others, and the more God will bless us. Listen, no one should have to feel guilt or embarrassment or stress about finances. And the church ought to be a place where people can find help to take control of their finances and not feel guilt or shame. I pray that this can be a place where we celebrate your success as you pay off your debts and as you get free. It will become part of your story. You can share how God acted in your life and your finances. And you give encouragement to other people. Many people come to church overwhelmed by financial worries. And they hear that they need to give more. I don't want that to be the case. And I don't believe God does either. I challenge our leadership to offer financial peace classes in this church so people can learn how to make their money work for them. And when that happens, you'll be able to give and you'll know what it means to be a cheerful giver, not a fearful giver. It makes all the difference. Financial management is such a complicated topic, and it's such a rough topic for the church that oftentimes we avoid it altogether. And a 20-minute sermon can barely scratch the surface. But I hope that today's message, and through it, God will speak to you and inspire you to evaluate your financial priorities. Take a look at your financial priorities, and I hope it will help you imagine how your life could be different if you simply change some of your financial habits. And if you pay attention to the way that you spend and give. Can you imagine experiencing less stress, and more peace in your finances? Imagine also how you could be a blessing to others. That is God's will. That is God's purpose for our finances. I pray it may be so for each and every one. Let's pray together. Gracious God, we haven't always honored you with our first fruits. We felt scared or greedy or simply unsure, and we've held on to our money with tight fists at the time of offering, instead of being open-handed and eager to give. We admit that we've not always trusted you with our income and with our livelihood. We are ready to view our money, Lord, as a tool. Help us. Help us want to work hard to earn an income. And we also ask that you give us the desire to seek a balance with our finances and our income, because we don't want to be like a rich fool who wasn't satisfied with his daily bread, but instead tore down his barns to build bigger barns. Please, Lord, open our eyes so we can see the ways you want us to be generous with the income you've blessed us with, as we learn to give more generously and to trust you. Trust that you will always provide for our needs. We thank you and we praise you in the name of Jesus. Amen.